as well as development issues. And when we try to integrate between the two, that's development and spiritual, you can really touch everybody, because as we all know, when even Jesus was here on earth, he did a lot on development, and he also assisted the people on spiritual issues. He was not doing spiritual issues alone, he was also doing development. That's why you find sometimes he does things which made some leaders even in this country, in those countries by those days, to become annoyed as per their laws by then. But as per the Baptist Church, what they are doing down there, they are dealing with the 5 pillars of that is peace building, agriculture, health, literacy, and spiritual development. So those 5 pillars, they are really doing some impact to our people. And that's why we leaders from Turkana, we are, especially the elected leaders in the 11th parliament, that is, we are 7 of us. We really appreciate what they are doing down there, and we wanted also to integrate the programs they are doing with the programs we are doing also on the development issues, that the CDF and all that, so that we can really assist the life of our people through partnership. And what we are trying to do, if it is agriculture and there is something to be done in agriculture on the side of the government, we also try to bring the 2 programs together so that people can benefit.
You know, the joke is always made, and sometimes you find it is not funny, you know, when people say, you know, the people of Turkana always say, when you go to Kenya, say hello to your president for us. And to some extent, you know, we think, you know, that's really funny, but the people of Turkana really do feel neglected. Let's talk about the issues that your people face on a day-to-day basis in Lokitang, in Lokichogee, and very many other countries in the northern rift of this country, where, yes, it is okay for us to look at it and say, you know, yeah, really. But what is life like in these areas?
Yeah, it is true to say that, because yeah, we can call it a joke, but in the real sense, it can sometimes add some water in it, because when you go to Turkana, there is no roads, no water, no infrastructure is that, you can't just imagine you are in Kenya. But when you come to areas like here, Nairobi, Nyeri, Kisumu, and all the rest of the areas in Kenya, you can just find life is different from life in Turkana. And that's what makes the Turkana people to say, okay. In fact, they have been saying, when you come to, you are coming this side, they say you are going to Kenya, and when you go that side, you are going to Turkana. So there's a different when it comes to development. It makes us to look like we have 2 Kenya. We have the Kenya of Turkana and the Kenya of this side because of development. And that's why we appreciate the new constitution, because now there is the equalization fund, there is the, even this money when it was distributed. Turkana was the second after Nairobi. And some people, they have been fighting it to be saying why. Why to give them that lion's share. But it is not the issue of questioning that. It is just something which is there, because the rest of these areas, you have tarmac roads, you have water, the schools have been built, and all this. So for other Kenyans, like in Turkana, in Northeastern, to come to that same level, we need to do something so that we can come at the same level, so that we can be called, all of us can be proud to be Kenyans.
That's right.
But now, when somebody here is enjoying all this, you go to a school, for example, we do the same exams. But in Turkana, a child in a primary school, a standard 8 people, has never seen a copy tree. He has never seen a tarmac road. He has never seen railway, electricity, and all that. So, and we are calling themselves, we are calling ourselves all Kenyans. Sometimes I think that's what makes Turkana people to say they are not. We are in Kenya, but we don't term it the way the people of Mombasa say.
Indeed, Pwani Kenya. Yes,
we are in Kenya, but when we see to development, we can say we have been left behind, and that's why we are saying the time has come for us also to be. And I remember it was only last year in October or September, when the whale was, the president announced that whale has been discovered in Turkana.
Yes.
I think that's the time Turkana started being in the map
I know,
or in
right?
the minds of other Kenyans.
Absolutely.
But all those times, some people, when they met with you, they say, you introduce yourself, I'm from Turkana. They say, where is Turkana?
All right.
So all those.
All right. So it's such a sad state of affairs, wouldn't you say, Pastor? You know, when you take a look at a region of a country, this has been largely neglected by the government. And like you talked about some of the things in terms of sustainability, and we'll get to that in a moment. Do you think this is an attitude that we are all, you know, guilty of? Because we say that's the government, but, you know, the government is in us and we are the government. Would you say that as Kenyans, you know, as a whole, we are guilty of this neglect of the people in Turkana and other far-flung areas?
Exactly. And that's the message we want to pass across. A church like ours is not involved there because we have a lot of money. We're involved there because we feel we need to be part of the solution to the problem. And also we feel every Kenyan can be a part of solving the problem. Like I said earlier, the whole idea of peace building is not the work or the reserve of one group or one entity. It is the work of everybody, everybody. And so we are in Nairobi, things may be better here, but Turkana, these are our brothers and sisters. And just like the Apostle Paul said, we are the body of Christ. So the hand cannot say, I'm not a part of the body, or the leg, I'm not a part of the body. If the leg does not do its part, then I won't get from here to where you are. And all these things are together. And we started by saying we are our brothers' keepers. And so Turkana and Nairobi are linked together in the sense that we are brothers and sisters. And everybody can do something about the situation there.
Okay, and we'll be talking about how others can get involved in this. But you'd mentioned now being there for 4 years and, you know, making this more sustainable and looking at peace and development going hand in hand. Let's talk about some of the projects, you know, that how you began with the relief and how that has grown over the last 4 years, and indeed what your hopes are for the future in terms of putting in sustainable developmental projects.
Yes. Mheshimiwa, when he was talking, he talked about the 5 pillars. And this we have learned over time. When we went first time, 2009, 2010, even part of 2011, we were giving relief. But then we thought, we give relief and then we go back to Nairobi. We got to find a way of building something that's sustainable. And so we developed 5 areas of development or pillars. We call them 5 pillars. For example, literacy. That's one of the pillars. And we saw the need for literacy. What we have done as a church, we have established a scholarship fund. And right now we have 20 high school students benefiting from that, and we are putting 2 also into university, and we hope to grow this and expand it. There is also the agriculture pillar, which is the second pillar. At the moment, I know we have put up boreholes. There's a borehole at Kachoda, at Karebuk, at Lomareng, at Manalongoria, and we have also some demonstration farms at Kanguruchane, Lomareng, and the greenhouses at Lokitang Secondary School. That is to develop the agriculture pillar. And our prayer is that as we do it, then this will become a basis because part of the problem, and Mheshimiwa would know more than me, for lack of peace, is the whole idea of population has grown and then resources are scarce. And there's competition for that.
Absolutely.
And that's why we felt, yes, we are a church. We go to the ground. Jesus emphasized both development and discipleship. He gave people bread, for example, in John chapter 6. And so we felt we needed to do both. And in the area of spiritual development, in fact, right now we have sent 2 full-time missionaries on the ground, and we thank God for that. The peace building, we are going to have a conference, and I believe we'll talk about it this Saturday, where we hope to develop strategies and roadmap for sustainable peace.
Okay.
And not just in that area where we are, especially Lokitang and Turkana in general, but we pray spreading to southern Ethiopia and also southern Sudan.
Absolutely.
We are also touching another pillar, the pillar of health, because we see the need for a healthy community, nutrition, maternal care, child care, sanitary towels being given to the young girls.
That's right.
We have another partner called Mfariji who has come in and is distributing sanitary towels.
Okay.
So there are those 5 pillars: literacy, spiritual development, health, agriculture, and peace.
Okay.
Spiritual development, because we believe peace is not just external peace, it's also got to be internal peace. So there's got to be peace inside and peace all around. And like Jesus is the Prince of Peace. He's the author of peace. So we cannot do all these other things and forget to mention the inside man and the need to have peace inside. So we are talking about holistic peace. That's the initiative.
Okay, all right. So quite a number of projects that you've started: boreholes, demonstration farms, and of course the scholarship fund, because that is so important as well. And when we talk about some of these, obviously we're talking about resources, like he has mentioned, which is usually a huge fight in many parts of the country, and indeed of the continent as well, that it's always fights over water and pasture, and especially in an area like Turkana that is so sparse when it comes to rain. Let's talk about the issues of security and the clashes that take place between clans, not just in Turkana, in Mandera. We hear of these issues, and what you think some of the solutions are. Are you happy with these initiatives?
Yeah. In fact, the only solution is the way the church is doing it, because as they preach for the gospel, people can understand the means of being together. And they can now get to know that you are from another clan. We all belong to one body called Christ, as the church puts it. So the time the church now comes in fact, they will be the right people to bring these people together, because they will be preaching unity, the Trinity of one body, so that even one person from another clan can learn that this one from another clan, we all belong to one Kenya, we belong to one community, and for those resources to be shared, we need to share all of us. And the other thing, when we talk of these resources being people fighting over it, in fact, it is sometimes we can blame the government, because when we talk of water, people fighting over water. What is difficult for water to be drilled in those areas so that people cannot fight over? When we talk of grass, all this, it can be managed. If leadership can take over, if the government can intervene, and they come in and say, okay, are you fighting over this water? Okay, let's have water in the next area down there.
So that there's enough for everybody. Okay, absolutely.
But now people are fighting all over and over water, and we are just watching at them fighting. We don't want to get the cause of the fight. We just say, okay, we have done peace. We want you to talk, and you agree on how you can share this water.
Okay. Yet but the water is not enough. Yes, absolutely.
To need this water.
Okay. All right, absolutely. There's many people who say, and I'll put it to you that, okay, a lot of this is happening in Turkana, yet they are members of parliament. Let's just be able to understand your role as a member of parliament vis-a-vis development in the area that you come from. People will say, oh, but how is it that Turkana has been neglected all these years, and they have been electing members of parliament, for the longest time. We're now in the 11th parliament, and they've always had representation in the National Assembly, so why isn't there development in that region? Just explain to our viewers who may not understand how this works.
When it comes to being elected to represent, when we talk of our country now, Kenya, we need to talk about National Assembly, not to talk about Nicholas coming from Turkana East.
Okay.
We come there, we form our legislation team, that is the National Assembly now. And one issue, we tackle issues there, we tackle issues nationally. I can bring a matter from my constituency. It's supposed to be debated in the House. And maybe I am the only one who has that interest from my area. And the other
because all the other members, their areas are okay.
Areas represented.
Okay.
But you can't now condemn somebody that we have elected you. Yes, you have elected me. And I take the matters to the National Assembly. So it is the National Assembly now to discuss, and if they see the priority in it, they can tackle that matter.
But also another issue, I think, besides saying, oh, Nicholas should go and he should really push for the people of Turkana East, is it the role of the National Assembly and the Member of Parliament representing an area, or is it the duty of the government to provide electricity, to provide running water, to provide roads, to provide schools? Let's just understand that, because, the way we understand it, we think the Member of Parliament has immense power to do everything.
Yeah, that one's there, but we need also to remember that politics is a game of numbers.
That's right.
When we form a government, like now the government we have, President Kenyatta is there and his deputy, and the members of parliament are there also to enact laws. What matters a lot is, even to me, as a politician from my constituency, the politicians always look where the numbers are, and that's what it has affected the development of this country. You find that those who are in power, they wish to concentrate on where the numbers are for next election.
And for sure, Turkana doesn't have
and when you
those
talk
high
about
numbers.
Turkana, somebody can just wake up and say, okay, why to go to take a road to Turkana
For how many people?
To Nyeri,
right.
So that next time when I look for those numbers, people can vote for me.
Absolutely.
And that's what affected the minority in this country.
It's the politics. It's the bad politics. Pastor, just very quickly, just let's talk about the politics and how that affects that, and how aware we should be. Sometimes, when we're, Kenyans are political animals, and we get so caught up. Even after church, you'll probably hear certain conversations about, did you see what happened in Parliament? These members of Parliament, the government, the executive, and how bad politics can be so toxic for development for areas like Turkana.
Mheshimiwa has explained how sometimes politics can lead to marginalization. Because you look at demographics and you're looking at people in terms of votes. And so if I send development in the direction of where people are, then of course I get votes. And it sounds like good politics. But when looking at it from God's side, everybody is important. In fact, there's a scripture in Jeremiah 29:11 that says, God says, I know the plans I have for you. They are plans for good and not for evil,
right.
to give you a future and a hope. I believe good politics is when you take a scripture like that and you start living it out and begin at the point that the individual is important. Every individual is important wherever they are in this country. No wonder Jesus said, I will leave the 99 who are okay.
And go for the one.
And I will go for that
needs
one.
to be saved.
Whatever it takes. It doesn't matter the budget, how much money you need to put into that to get to that one. And so I feel our emphasis should be to the vulnerable. Because really, as we help them and assist them, we are really helping ourselves. And in fact, it will be good for national security. Just like in our own families where we come from.
Right.
Not everybody is equal in that same home, same father, mother, that family.
Absolutely.
And if we want security and peace in this home, the most vulnerable, that's where we should really concentrate.
Absolutely.
Or any neighborhood or village. Concentrate on where need is most. And then you can also sleep nicely in your house without fearing somebody is going to break into that place.
Absolutely. And we're talking about this as collective responsibility and it being our duty. Gentlemen, I'd like us to take a small break from our discussion, and we will come back and talk about this because there's also an important national event that's taking place, and this is the 11th prayer breakfast in this country. 500 guests expected, including the President, the Deputy, and the members of the National Assembly and the Senate. And this is happening at the Safari Park. It is scheduled to begin at at around 8 o'clock this morning. And we have our reporter Rita Tamina, senior reporter Rita Tamina, who's live at the Safari Park Hotel to give us an update on the preparations and if all is in place. Rita, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. If you can hear me, just tell us of the preparations and whether indeed the guests have begun arriving.
Well, a very good morning to you, Yvonne. We are, of course, coming to you live from the Safari Park Hotel. This is the venue that has, for the past 10 years, played host to the National Prayer Breakfast. And at the moment, invited guests are still arriving here at the Paradise grounds at the Safari Park Hotel. As you mentioned earlier, the National Prayer Breakfast is scheduled to kick off at 8 a.m. And among other dignitaries who will be here will be President Uhuru Kenyatta. But so far, other leaders, political leaders, leaders from the corporate world. I've seen members of the diplomatic corps are still streaming into these grounds. Remember, this has now become an annual event. It has been held here in the country for the past 10 years, but of course, this was an idea that was perhaps borrowed from the United States, where it has been conducted for dozens of years. And in the United States, it takes place at the Hilton in Washington. Here in Kenya, this is an event, as I have mentioned, that takes place here at the Safari Park Hotel. And over the years, of course, this particular year, quite significant for President Uhuru Kenyatta. It will be his first National Prayer Breakfast as president. We will wait and see who is the dignitary from perhaps outside the country. Over the years, there have been dignitaries invited from other countries. In 2009, for instance, there was President Paul Kagame. This year, we'll wait and see whether there will be a speaker from outside the country who will be allowed to make a keynote speech. Aside from that, President Uhuru Kenyatta will be the guest of honor in this prayer breakfast this morning. Yvonne.
Thank you very much for that, Rita. Just one more question before we let you go, and we'll come back to you again a little later. But indeed, it is hard to believe that this is now the 11th National Prayer Breakfast that we're having in the country. Let's just talk a bit about, the history of this been happening for the last 10 years and how this has become entrenched, as part of our traditions in the country. Rita?
Well, of course, Yvonne, as I said, this has become part of the annual events in the country. It has built a place in the calendar here in Kenya. It was introduced, of course, under the presidency of Mwai Kibaki. When he took over power, he introduced the National Prayer Breakfast. For the past 10 years, it has been held. This is the 11th year. And every year, there is a theme to the National Prayer Breakfast. This year, the theme, a great country. And so we'll wait to hear what the president will have to say, and all other leaders will get a chance to speak during the prayer breakfast. And of course, something else that perhaps Kenyans will be waiting to hear is the National Assembly Choir. In 2012, the choir that made a performance during the National Prayer Breakfast became a talk of the social media. And so we'll wait to see how they perform this time round. Of course, this National Prayer Breakfast being organized by the National Assembly. This time, of course, they are members of the Senate, unlike in the last parliament. So we'll wait and see what kind of a show the choir members will put, and whether indeed the National Assembly and the Senate will come together and form a joint choir, or whether their supremacy battles will be displayed here. Yvonne.
Indeed, thank you very much for that, Rita. Giving us some history and perspective on this. We will catch up with you in just a few short moments to see how that is progressing, and indeed live from 8 a.m. when that begins. Thank you very much for that, Rita Tamina, our senior reporter, live from the Safari Park, where the 11th National Prayer Breakfast Day is underway. And the theme for this year is "A Grateful Nation is a Great Nation." Thank you for that. And we continue to ask you to send in your thoughts and your prayers for the nation today. And hopefully some of those prayers will be for those from marginalized regions in the country, and not just a prayer, but for you to actually do something about it, as Parklands Baptist Church is doing this morning. Just very quickly, your take on that. 11 years we've been praying for this nation, and it's multi-denominational, and of course from all religions and all faiths in this country who are based, at this event. An important, tradition that is now a part of us.
Exactly. I think this is just something great. When a nation comes together and starts praying together, gives God a chance to come through. But I think it also gives a people an opportunity to reflect over the period. I think prayer really addresses brings reflections on whether we are doing things the right way or the wrong way. Why are we where we are right now? And what do we need to do to move to the next level? And really, I like the scripture that says, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. God says, I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sins, and this last bit is interesting, I will heal their land. So when a nation comes into a convocation of prayer, they're just allowing themselves to let God do something in the nation and bring healing. Our economy, and I'm praying, personally I'm praying that we go to 10% above that growth. And the other area, really, even as the conference, prayer conference is gathering, I'm praying is that interest rates, the bank, the access to credit, interest rates go below 10%, and they really ought to, because think of the college students, people who are leaving college, they would like to access credit. They've got great ideas and they want to do something, but they can't, because credit is so expensive. And you try to borrow money, they want collateral. And so it's very difficult. So we pray that in our country, God's intervention comes in such a big way. The oil, for example, and many other resources that are underground. The Lord is able to bring them out, and our economy just shoots up.
Indeed. Mheshimiwa, what is your prayer for the nation, and also more importantly for the people of Turkana East?
Okay, my prayers are this nation to, let's say everybody in this nation, to have that act of brotherhood, so that we can feel that if you are suffering here, I feel it, that I am also suffering. And my prayer to the people of Turkana is for them to have peace, so that we can do development, because without peace, there will be no development.
Yes. And let's get back into that discussion now. And we have a conference that's coming up this weekend to take a look at some of the initiatives that you've had over time and perhaps to look forward. Let's talk about that conference that's taking place this weekend. Who's invited and what will be discussed and the expected outcome?
This conference is open really to all, because we believe everybody has a part to play in terms of building of peace. We have also invited the leadership from Turkana, elected leadership. We have invited churches from around Nairobi. We have also invited partners, possible partners, who can get involved in the whole area of building peace in Turkana. It's going to be this Saturday, and registration begins around 1 o'clock. But the conference proper starts at 2. In the conference, we are going to have panels. We are going to have specialists speak in some of the issues of conflict and how to resolve them. We are going to have exhibitions. We are also going to have music. And hopefully out of this, we shall have a roadmap for sustainable peace in Turkana developed. And like I say, this is an initiative of a church, and I believe there are many other initiatives, and we encourage that all the initiatives, come together, and just like Mheshimiwa has said, and we see what we can all do. Yes, so this Saturday at Parklands Baptist Church in the Westlands area of Nairobi. We are called Parklands Baptist because we started in the Parklands area, and we kept the name when we went to the Westlands area. We are on Sports Road.
Yes. Sports Road, Raptor Road? I think it's,
Raptor.
yes, it's somewhere along that junction. So all of these stakeholders coming together, elected leaders, specialists in areas of development, spiritual leaders as well, and hopefully that out of this we will have a roadmap. So the question is, okay, this is being spearheaded by Parklands Baptist, but what happens if I have an idea, I have a contribution to make? Can I come on Saturday?
Exactly. Like I said, it's really open to everyone. both young and old. In fact, you'll find when you come, really young people there, but you'll also have senior people in the society. And you'll find people from different parts of the world, not just Kenya. People who come from other parts of the world. And so if you have an idea, please come. That's the right place for you. And I pray that God touches you and reminds you that you're a peacemaker and a peace builder, and it doesn't matter. No contribution is small. In fact, I'm reminded of the boy who had 5 loaves of bread and 2 small fish, and he was there in a crowd of 5,000 that was hungry. And he could have felt, my contribution cannot make a difference. But he gave that contribution to Jesus, in other words, involving God, and you can see in the story there, John chapter 6.
What happened in that particular instance. Mheshimiwa, what do you hope to come out of this conference that takes place on Saturday? When it is all said and done, what would be your aspirations of that coming out of that conference?
Okay, as you have heard from the reference is that all the stakeholders, they will be there this Saturday, including the elected leaders from Turkana, the partners of the church who have been doing this development in Turkana. And we are going to come up with the roadmap on how we can make lasting solutions for peace in Turkana and also other developments in Turkana. So my hope is all the stakeholders, they will agree together and work together and come up with the comprehensive way forward on how they can handle peace issues in Turkana. Because the peace issues in Turkana, they are a bit complicated because of the surroundings, neighboring on the side of Ethiopia, Sudan, Uganda, and also at the border of Turkana, Pokot, Turkana, Samburu. So it is somehow difficult even to handle. It is easier on our side, but the side of the neighboring countries, because as you enter there are so many challenges we can face. But we need now to come up slowly. We find a roadmap how we can get into Ethiopia, Sudan, Southern Sudan, Uganda, so that we can bring all those people together in that region so that they can live in harmony.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And obviously talking about a roadmap, and many people look at those in Turkana and say, well, you're just waiting for handouts, and we give and we give and we give and we get tired. Is this why we're talking about sustainable development? And, you know, how will this uplift the lives of those in Turkana and empower them? As opposed to me coming in and I give food and then I leave. I come in, I give food and then I leave and I go back.
I think in Turkana, the time of handout, it has gone. That's right. What we are trying to do now is find alternative livelihoods. Whereby we can now involve the people instead of just giving them and leave them, because it will not help. You give them, you go,
right,
and you need to come back tomorrow again. But time has come now for us to start talking on sustainable development, whereby if it is farming, we do farming, introduce them to farming, and they will start themselves and they will just feed themselves. If it is microfinance projects, we can still do that in those areas. If it is education, all those projects. And for this issue of peace now to be sustainable, we need also to bring projects which can bring these people together at the border. Maybe we have a common school, a common market, a common water place, so that they can come together and use those facilities together.
Absolutely. Time for handouts in Turkana is over. This, I guess, is the idea of you being there all this time and the conference.
Exactly. And that's what we want to do. We want the Turkana, and not just Turkana, everybody really in Kenya to remember they are important, and that God has a plan, a wonderful plan for every individual. And so handouts, in my opinion, are demeaning. But it's just like somebody said, instead of giving somebody fish, teach them how to fish. And that's why you find we are emphasizing issues like literacy, agriculture. In fact, we are also setting up some resource centers where we're going to put computers and youth programs. What Mheshimiwa has talked about, places where people can come together and begin to interact, especially the youth, and begin to discuss at their level the need for peace and the future that they envisage and how this future can be brought near. Because I believe we can accelerate this.
Okay.
So handouts will not do.
Okay.
But long-lasting solutions, sustainable solutions, that's what we need.
All right. You mentioned in the beginning that there's a lot of young people who are in Lokitang at the moment. Some of them are from the church that you mentioned in the United States. And it just got me thinking about volunteerism in this country and how important that is, and whether you think that's picked up with the pace that it should. You know, a call to young people who are perhaps in between jobs. You've just finished high school, you've just finished university. How important is this? I know it is huge, you know, abroad in the West, where, you know, young people, like you've mentioned, the 12 who are, you know, coming all the way from the United States to Kenya to actually be volunteers. But what do we need to do to get this entrenched, that we have Kenyans, young people going to Mandera, Turkana, and helping out?
From our own experience, because our church has over 1,000, well, the congregation is about 7,000, but a good proportion of these are actually young people. What I can say is that we have a generation of young people now who are ready to serve. What they need is just to be shown. They want to live with a purpose. And so when you find, when you go to forums where there is emphasis on you can do something, and this is where you can do it, and this is how you can do it, you find young people are beginning to volunteer. I've just given you that example.
Yeah.
This is Kenya.
Yeah.
If you minus 58 minus 12, that is 46.
46, yes.
The 46 are Kenyan young people, just finished Form 4 last year. They're in a transition stage, about to enter university. And so these are young people, and their parents are even releasing them. It was difficult before to have parents also release young people, go for a whole month out there, and all they hear are stories of, sometimes you see these guns, and you know, you kind of
that's right. Get worried, yes, about your young person.
You're saying, hey, I've read in newspapers this kind of stories. I don't want. Parents are now releasing their young people, and we're having young people who are willing to take a risk, and they are ready to serve. In fact, Kenya is a blessed country. We are a very blessed country. Our new generation of young people are young people with a difference. So if they are given a good reason to go out there, you know, a purpose to live for, and they are shown how. Like with those young people, we put them on an 8 months program of preparing, you know, and training them. And they are shown how. They will go. I have seen it. And they go very enthusiastic and they get involved.
And the benefits to the volunteers themselves, to these young people that can go out and experience life and say, okay, what is it like for somebody my age in Lokitang? Let's talk about the benefits to the volunteer themselves, because, you know, we talk about the benefits of the people they are volunteering to, but how about, you know, they themselves as individuals? It's huge, right?
Yeah, they come back with a real sense of purpose and meaning, you know, sense of meaning and fulfillment, and also realizing they can live with very little. Because really, like here in Nairobi, you have young people, including like my children, with all kinds of gadgets. They've got a laptop, they've got an iPad, and they've got all this stuff that's in the ears and everywhere. And sometimes we look at them and say, why are you idle? Why are you just sitting there? Why can't you do something? When they go out there and they serve somebody else, you know, they come back, and I've seen it, because we've sent several teams. They come back totally different.
And this could be the new generation, Mheshimiwa, that now has a better appreciation of all Kenyans, including those in Turkana. And hopefully, if these are the leaders of tomorrow, then they're able to put in better policies for all Kenyans, regardless of where they live.
Yeah, you know, what the church they have done, and I appreciate that, and I believe if everybody can go that route, Kenya will change. Because when you bring these young guys and you take them to places like Lokitang, they start knowing those areas. They start feeling how those people from those areas feel. So one time when these people will be somewhere where we are now, you know, to them, they will just do things equally. But somebody being brought up here in Nairobi, who has not gone out of Nairobi, he goes up to the position of being an MP or a president or so, and he has not experienced those areas. You know, when you talk about those areas before him or her, he cannot even think about it. But what the church now, they are doing, and I believe everybody will take the way the Baptist church they have taken for our youth. to go around to meet with others, because the youth from Nairobi here is just imagining how the youth from Lokitang looks like. But now for those who have gone down there, they can now give a testimony. They can tell how that area is.
Yes.
And they will really appreciate their life there.
Yeah.
And by doing so, they can really help in the future.
Yes, and in policy making.
Yeah, in policy
because
making.
finally they do understand what it's like. It's not, you know, all these stories and fairy tales that we hear about what's happening in Turkana, and they would have a better understanding. I want to thank you so much, both for making the time to be with us this morning. It's an important day, and I think it's even a great day to talk about initiatives such as these as Kenya turns 50. Just some final words from you, Pastor. Remind us again about Saturday, and of course why we should now be caring about everybody. I mean, Kenya's turning 50, and it's about time that we are all turning 50, and it means the same thing to all of us.
Indeed, we should really care about each other. We are all brothers and sisters. And this Saturday, 22nd, 2 o'clock, Parklands Baptist Church in Westlands, we are having the Peace Awareness Conference. And since we are all peacemakers and we are called to make peace, we are inviting you to come. Come here, come give a contribution, come and be part of that great strategy of building peace in Turkana, and not just Turkana, all over the world. And as you participate, God is going to bless you. You will have personal peace. And this personal peace will grow into family peace, community peace, and you're going to be blessed.
Absolutely. Thank you both very much. We've had Pastor Simon, who's Associate Pastor at the Parklands Baptist Church. We've had Honorable Nicholas Nixon, who's the member of National Assembly representing the people of Turkana East in the 11th Parliament. We're talking about the Parklands Baptist Church Turkana Peace Day. It is a conference that's happening on the 22nd, that is on Saturday, taking a look at sustainable development projects that can be done in that part of the country. And indeed, it's important for us to do something as we celebrate 50 years. You know, pull everybody up so that development means the same thing to all of us. Not that some regions are better and some are not. I think, like you mentioned, we're all part of one body. You know, one arm isn't fed more than the other. So you don't have one arm that's really muscular and really well developed and the other that's wasting away. And it's the same thing, that all of us should develop uniformly and equally. And perhaps those are some of the prayers that we should be having for the nation today. Please do bear Turkana, Mandera, Samburu, and some of these areas in mind in your prayers today, as we have the 11th National Prayer Breakfast today. And do make sure, if you can contribute in any way, if you're a young person, you have nothing to do, do make sure you do that 1-month trip to Turkana. It'll so open your eyes up, and it's something that you can put on your CV, and who knows, it would help you in terms of future employment in the country. So that's what's happening on the 22nd. We want to take a short break right now on Sunrise Live. When we come back, more from the National